The glass-domed observation deck of Interstellar Station Epsilon 9 offered the most breathtaking view in the quadrant, Earth rising over the lunar horizon, bathed in the golden light of Sol. But Commander Alex Morgan wasn't looking at the view. Instead, their attention was fixed on the 7-foot-tall, iridescent being standing beside them, whose multifaceted eyes reflected the stars like living galaxies. "You still don't understand, do you, Zixilarian?" Alex asked, pressing a hand against the reinforced glass separating them from the vacuum of space. The alien tilted their head, a gesture they'd picked up from humans during their 3-month diplomatic mission. Their voice resonated with a melodic quality that no human vocal cord could replicate. "Your species continues to confound me, Commander. You organize your entire civilization around this concept, yet cannot agree on its definition." A small smile played across Alex's lips. "That's because love isn't something you can define with scientific precision. It's something you feel." Zixilarian's chromatophores rippled with blue-green skepticism. Inefficient, impractical. And yet, the alien hesitated, their inner membranes flickering with uncertainty. Fascinating. That's when the station's alarms began to blare. 2 months earlier, humanity had made first contact with the Xilarian Collective, an advanced spacefaring civilization whose technology outpaced Earth's by centuries. Their arrival had triggered both celebration and panic across the globe. World leaders scrambled to form a united front, while conspiracy theorists stockpiled supplies for the invasion they were certain would come. But the Xilarians hadn't come to conquer. They'd come to study. They're anthropologists, Dr. Talia Washington had explained during the initial briefing. The renowned xenobiologist's eyes sparkled with excitement as she addressed the hastily assembled team of Earth's best and brightest. Or whatever their equivalent is. They want to understand us. Why? Colonel Rivera had demanded, arms crossed defensively over his chest. What makes humans so special? Dr. Washington's smile had been enigmatic. Apparently, we're the only species they've encountered who base our social structures around pair bonding and emotional attachment, rather than pure logic or biological necessity. The colonel had scoffed. They came across galaxies because they're curious about human relationships. No, Dr. Washington corrected. They came because they find the concept of love incomprehensible and potentially dangerous. That's how Alex Morgan, with degrees in both cultural anthropology and astrophysics, found themselves assigned as the primary liaison to Zixilarian, the Xilarians' foremost expert on emerging civilizations. The mission: to explain love to a being whose species reproduced through a complex spore-sharing ritual and operated on pure logic and collective benefit. It wasn't going well. Your literature is filled with individuals making objectively terrible decisions because of this love, Zixilarian observed during their 3rd meeting. They had been watching Earth broadcasts and reading human literature voraciously. Your Romeo and Juliet committed suicide. Your Paris absconded with Helen, launching a devastating war. Your popular music consistently equates love with various forms of illness and insanity. Alex couldn't argue with that. We don't love because it's logical, Zix. We love because we can't help it. The alien's response had been immediate. That sounds like a virus. As the weeks passed, Alex introduced Zixilarian to human expressions of love beyond the romantic, the fierce protection of a parent for their child, the steadfast loyalty between friends, the compassionate love that drives strangers to help one another during disasters. Each example seemed to puzzle the alien more. Your species willingly puts itself at risk for others without guarantee of genetic continuation or resource acquisition, Zixilarian noted, their voice vibrating with what Alex had come to recognize as confusion. It defies evolutionary logic. Maybe there's more to existence than evolutionary logic, Alex had suggested. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Alex had received news that their grandfather had passed away back on Earth. Though they tried to maintain professional composure during that day's meeting, Zixilarian had immediately sensed something was wrong. Your physiological readings indicate distress, the alien had stated. Have I caused offense? Alex had explained about their grandfather, the man who'd inspired their love of stars, who'd built them a telescope for their 8th birthday, who'd supported them even when their parents thought space exploration was a foolish dream. Zixlarian had listened in silence. Then, to Alex's shock, the alien had extended a limb and awkwardly patted their shoulder, a perfect mimic of a human gesture of comfort. I do not understand your grief, Zixlarian had said, but I find myself uncomfortable with your distress. I would prefer you not to experience this negative emotional state. It was the closest thing to empathy the alien had expressed. After that, Zixlarian's questions changed. Instead of demanding logical explanations for love, they began asking about how it felt. What did heartbreak physically feel like? Why did humans cry at both weddings and funerals? Why did parents continue to support offspring that would never provide adequate return on resource investment? Progress was slow but undeniable. Until the day everything changed. The delegation from Earth had organized a cultural showcase. Music, dance, poetry, cuisine from across the globe. Midway through a stirring violin performance, Alex noticed Zixlarian trembling, their usually iridescent skin dulling to an ashen gray. Are you ill? Alex whispered, concerned. This sensation. Zixlarian's voice wavered. What is happening to me? Before Alex could respond, the alien had rushed from the room, knocking over a chair in their haste. Alex found them later in the observation deck, all 4 limbs pressed against the glass, staring at Earth. I experienced something dangerous during the music, Zixlarian confessed. A resonance, not in auditory receptors, but elsewhere. Internal, ineffable. Alex's heart raced. You felt something. It was uncomfortable, yet I wished for it to continue. Zixlarian turned their multifaceted eyes toward Alex. Is this how it begins? Your love. That conversation had lasted hours. For the first time, Zixlarian seemed less like a scientist dissecting a strange phenomenon, and more like a person on the brink of a profound discovery. Then came the transmission from the Zixlarian Collective's high command. Now, as the station's alarms echoed through the observation deck, Alex watched uncertainty ripple across Zixlarian's features. What does it mean? Alex asked, already dreading the answer. Zixlarian's voice was uncharacteristically subdued. The collective has reviewed my reports. They have deemed human emotional attachment patterns to be a potential contamination risk to our logical society. The aliens' chromatophores darkened with what Alex now recognized as distress. They are sending a containment fleet. Containment. Alex's blood ran cold. What exactly does that mean? For the first time since they'd met, Zixlarian wouldn't meet Alex's eyes. They've never encountered a species whose emotional patterns could transfer to us. The alien's limbs trembled slightly. They believe I may already be compromised. Outside the window, pinpoints of light began to appear against the blackness of space, ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, far more than would be necessary for a diplomatic mission. Zix, Alex whispered, what aren't you telling me? The alien finally looked up, their eyes reflecting not just the stars now, but something new. Something that, on a human face, Alex would have called fear, or perhaps something deeper. A high command has ordered Earth's quarantine, Zixlarian said softly. But I find myself unable to comply with this. Alex's mind raced through possibilities faster than the approaching ships could cross the void of space. The station's emergency protocol lights bathed the observation deck in pulsing red, casting strange shadows across Zixlarian's increasingly agitated form. How much time do we have? Alex asked, military training kicking in despite the thundering of their heart. Zixlarian's upper appendages twitched in calculation. 17 of your Earth minutes before the Vanguard arrives. The main fleet will follow within the hour. Captain Rivera's voice crackled over the station's comm system. All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill. First contact protocol has been elevated to situation red. The aliens' chromatophores rippled with patterns Alex had never seen before, jagged pulses of deep violet interspersed with flashes of something almost luminescent, fear, conflict, or something without a human equivalent. "I must inform you," Zixlarian said, their voice modulating to a lower register, "that what I am experiencing goes against all collective doctrine. For Xilarian to prioritize individual connection over collective benefit is unprecedented. It is," the alien searched for words, "the gravest transgression." Alex stepped closer, close enough to feel the subtle electromagnetic field that surrounded all Xilarians. "What exactly are you saying, Zix?" "I am saying that I find myself unable to comply with the directive to contain your species. The thought of your extinction or isolation causes a disruption in my neural pathways that I cannot override." The alien's four eyes fixed on Alex with unnerving intensity. "I believe this may be what humans call caring for someone." Before Alex could respond, Dr. Washington burst into the observation deck, tablet in hand, face flushed with exertion. "The delegation's been recalled to Earth," she gasped. "Military's scrambling everything with wings. They're talking about a preemptive strike." She paused, taking in the tableau before her, human and alien standing closer than protocol permitted, the fleet visible through the window. "Oh God, is that the Xilarian containment fleet?" Zixlarian confirmed. "Dispatched to ensure that what they perceive as the emotional contagion of humanity does not spread." Dr. Washington's scientific curiosity momentarily overcame her fear. Contagion. They think human emotions are infectious. Zixlarian's body language shifted subtly. "The collective operates on pure logic, unfettered by emotional considerations. It is our evolutionary advantage, allowing for decisions based solely on optimal outcomes rather than sentiment." The alien gestured toward themselves. "Yet after merely 3 months of close contact with humans, I find myself compromised." "Compromised how?" Alex pressed. "I experience discomfort at the thought of harm coming to Earth, to humans." A pause. "To you, Commander Morgan." The implications hung in the air between them. A fundamental change in an alien psychology that had evolved along entirely different lines than humanity's, something that should be impossible. Dr. Washington was already typing notes furiously into her tablet. "This changes everything we understand about sentient development. If emotional capacity can transfer across entirely different evolutionary paths, we don't have time for scientific breakthroughs right now," Alex cut in. "We need to prevent an interspecies war." They turned back to Zixlarian. "What will the fleet do exactly? What does containment mean?" The alien's chromatophores darkened to a deep indigo. "There are 3 standard protocols. Quarantine, placing impenetrable barriers around your solar system, preventing any travel beyond Mars. Regression, targeted electromagnetic pulses that would destroy your technology, setting your civilization back several centuries. Or, Dr. Washington whispered, sterilization." Zixlarian's voice was flat, mechanical, as if distancing themselves from the concept. "The removal of the contagion source." Alex felt ice in their veins. "They would exterminate us. For feeling. The collective values stability above all. Anything that threatens the logical foundation of our society cannot be permitted to exist." The alien's outer membrane trembled visibly now. "This is why my reaction to your species is so concerning to them. If I, as senior xenoanthropologist with full psychological conditioning, can be affected by exposure to human emotional patterns, what might happen if such contamination spread throughout our civilization?" The station shuddered slightly as its defensive systems automatically engage. On the main view screen at the far end of the observation deck, Captain Rivera's face appeared, his expression grim. "Commander Morgan, Dr. Washington, we've just received transmission from Earth Command. They're mobilizing the Deep Space Fleet, but it'll take at least 3 hours to reach our position." His eyes flickered to Zixalarian. Our orders are to stall for time. By any means necessary. The screen went dark. The implications were clear. Keep the alien representative talking while Earth prepared its defenses. A futile gesture against a civilization centuries more advanced. But human nature had never accepted extinction without a fight. Alex made a decision. Not as a diplomat, not as a commander, but as a human facing the potential end of everything they loved. Zix, you need to tell me honestly, is there any way to stop this? To convince the collective that we're not a threat? For the first time since they'd met, the alien looked genuinely uncertain. I do not know. The collective's decisions are based on risk assessment algorithms refined over millennia. The equations are unyielding. But you're proof that they're wrong, Dr. Washington interjected. You've been exposed to humans longer than any other Xilarian, and you haven't lost your logical capabilities. You've just expanded them. Something shifted in Zixalarian's posture, a straightening, a resolve. Perhaps, or perhaps I am already too contaminated to see my own corruption. The alien moved to the communications panel. There is one possibility. It carries extreme risk. We're listening, Alex said, hope flickering faintly. I could request direct neural connection with the fleet commander. Share my experiences unfiltered. Allow them to see what I have seen. To feel. The alien paused, the concept still strange to them. To feel what I have begun to feel. Dr. Washington sucked in a sharp breath. Would that even work? Unknown. Such a connection between a potentially compromised individual and a command-level consciousness has never been attempted. It could convince them, or it could result in my immediate termination as a corrupted unit. Alex stepped forward. There has to be another way. There is not. Zixalarian's tone was final. Your weapons cannot stop the fleet. Your diplomacy requires time we do not have. This is the only path with non-zero probability of success. Outside the window, the first of the alien vessels had become visible to the naked eye. Massive, crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around them, making their true dimensions difficult to perceive. If you do this, Alex said quietly, and it works, what happens to you? Zixalarian's chromatophores pulsed once with a soft, almost golden light, a color Alex had never seen from them before. That is irrelevant. The needs of the many. Don't. Alex's voice cracked slightly. Don't tell me this is just logical. Not anymore. Not after everything. The alien was silent for a long moment. Then, with a gesture almost like a human sigh, they extended an appendage toward the communications panel. Very well. The truth, then. Their multifaceted eyes fixed on Alex with an intensity that seemed to transcend their biological differences. I find myself experiencing what might be the Xilarian equivalent of your human concept of love. And I find it worth the risk. As Zixalarian initiated the neural connection request, the observation deck fell silent except for the pulsing of the alarm and the quiet hum of the station's systems. 3 beings, 2 human, 1 alien, watched as the first containment vessel moved into docking position. The fate of Earth now rested on the impossible, an alien learning to love and convincing its logical collective that emotion wasn't a disease but an evolution. The harsh blue light of the neural connection chamber cast everything in stark relief. Zixalarian had insisted on making the attempt from a secure room designed specifically for Xilarian communications, a space humans rarely entered, with atmosphere adjusted to their homeworld specifications and surfaces that seemed to pulse with faint bioluminescence. Alex paced outside the sealed door, each step heavy with the weight of billions of lives. Dr. Washington sat nearby, her tablet forgotten in her lap, eyes fixed on the status indicators above the entrance. You really think this will work? Captain Rivera asked, joining them in the corridor. He'd aged 10 years in the past hour, the lines around his eyes deeper than Alex had ever seen them. I don't know, Alex admitted, but it's the only chance we've got. The station's sensors showed 27 Xylarian vessels, now in position around the station, with more arriving by the minute. Earth's defensive fleet was still mobilizing, but everyone knew it was a futile gesture, like bringing spears to face nuclear weapons. Inside the chamber, Xylarian floated in a suspension field, their iridescent body connected to the communication array by gossamer threads that pulsed with data. The connection wasn't just a transmission. It was a complete neural link, allowing the fleet commander to experience Xylarian's memories, sensations, and newfound emotions firsthand, which was exactly what the collective feared most. Dr. Washington's tablet suddenly pinged with an alert. "Energy readings are spiking in the Xylarian fleet," she reported, her voice tight. "They're powering up something. Weapons, maybe. Or just preparing for quarantine measures," Alex suggested, clinging to hope. Captain Rivera's comm unit crackled. "Captain, we've got multiple targeting locks from the alien vessels. They're positioning for a synchronized strike." The words hung in the recycled air of the station corridor. Sterilization, then. Not quarantine. Not regression. The collective had made its choice. "How long do we have?" Rivera demanded. "Based on their energy signatures, 10 minutes, sir. Maybe less." Alex pressed a hand against the sealed door of the neural chamber. "Zix," they whispered. "Please." Inside the chamber, Xylarian experienced something no Xylarian had ever known: complete neural rejection. The fleet commander, instead of accepting the link, had erected barriers, filtering Xylarian's transmissions through logic algorithms designed to strip away emotional contamination. "Your neural patterns show significant deviation from collective norms." The commander's thoughts resonated directly in Xylarian's consciousness. "The infection has progressed further than our models predicted possible." Xylarian pushed harder against the barriers, forcing through memories. Alex explaining the concept of sacrifice for love through human history. The music that had first triggered their emotional resonance. The strange ache they'd felt when learning of Alex's grandfather's death. "These are not contaminations," Xylarian transmitted. "They are evolutions. New neural pathways that expand understanding rather than limit it." The commander's response was cold, clinical. "You defend the pathogen that has corrupted you. This confirms the necessity of our mission." Outside, the station's alert system escalated to evacuation warnings. Personnel rushed through corridors toward escape pods, a meaningless gesture if the Xylarian fleet intended total sterilization, but human instinct demanded action over acceptance. Alex refused to leave their position outside the neural chamber. "Commander Morgan," Rivera said sharply, "I'm ordering you to the evacuation point." "With respect, sir," Alex replied without taking their eyes off the status indicators. "If this fails, there's nowhere in the solar system that will be safe. I'm staying." Dr. Washington stood, tucking her tablet under her arm. "I'm staying too. Whatever happens, I want to witness it. For science, if nothing else." She attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Inside the chamber, Xylarian made a decision. If filtered memories wouldn't convince the fleet commander, perhaps raw emotional data would. They disabled their own neural safeguards, barriers that every Xylarian maintained to prevent emotional overflow, and channeled their experiences directly, unfiltered and unprocessed. The sensation of wonder when first seeing Earth rise over the lunar horizon, the confusion when studying Romeo and Juliet, the strange warmth when Alex laughed, the ache when Alex grieved, the fear, yes, fear, at the thought of humanity's extinction. "Stop this transmission immediately," the fleet commander ordered, but Xylarian continued, pushing through the pain as their neural pathways overloaded with emotional data never meant to travel Xylarian synapses at such intensity. "You must understand," Xylarian transmitted. "What humans call love is not weakness. It is not inefficiency. It is a different kind of strength." On the command deck of the lead Xylarian vessel, the fleet commander physically recoiled from the neural interface, their chromatophores flashing warning patterns. Technicians rushed forward, concerned by the unprecedented reaction, but the commander waved them away. re-establishing the connection. You would sacrifice yourself for these creatures. The question seemed genuinely bewildered. You would violate collective protocol, risk termination, for beings not of our kind. Yes, Zixlarian answered simply. And that is precisely what they would do for each other. That is what makes them not a threat, but a wonder. The station shuddered violently. Dr. Washington's tablet displayed new alerts, energy weapons charging across the Xelarian fleet, targeting systems locked on Earth's major population centers. "We're out of time," Rivera said grimly. Alex pressed their palm harder against the chamber door, as if the gesture could somehow reach across the void to Zixlarian. "You can do this," they whispered. "Make them understand." Inside the neural network, Zixlarian sensed the fleet commander's growing distress. The emotional data was having an effect, not conversion, not yet, but disruption, uncertainty where there had been only calculation. "The collective consensus is clear," the commander transmitted, but with less conviction. "Emotional contamination presents an existential risk to our way of existence." Zixlarian summoned their remaining strength, forcing through one final transmission. Not a memory or an emotion, but a question. If our way of existence cannot survive contact with new ideas, with different forms of consciousness, with love, then what are we preserving? The neural connection suddenly pulsed with blinding intensity. In the corridor, Alex and the others were thrown back as the chamber door buckled outward, emergency containment fields activating around the damaged seal. Warning klaxons blared throughout the station. "What's happening?" Alex shouted over the noise, struggling to their feet. Dr. Washington stared at her readings in disbelief. "The Xelarian ships, they're powering down weapons systems. And the neural connection, it's expanded. It's not just between Zixlarian and the commander anymore. It's spreading through the fleet." "Is that good or bad?" Rivera demanded. Before anyone could answer, the chamber door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Acrid smoke billowed out, carrying the strange, ozone-like scent of Xelarian technology. Alex rushed forward, peering through the haze. Zixlarian lay crumpled on the chamber floor, their normally luminescent skin dull and lifeless, the neural connection threads scattered around them like broken spider silk. "No," Alex breathed, dropping to their knees beside the alien's still form. "No, no, no, don't you dare. Not after all this." Outside the station's viewports, the Xelarian fleet had fallen into an eerie stillness. No energy signatures, no movement, as if every ship had simultaneously powered down. Earth's defensive vessels, finally arriving at the edge of the system, approached cautiously. Dr. Washington knelt beside Alex, scanning Zixlarian with her instruments. Her expression shifted from clinical assessment to bewilderment. "These readings, I've never seen anything like this." "Are they?" Alex couldn't finish the question. "I don't know," she admitted. "Their neural patterns are everywhere and nowhere. It's like their consciousness has." The words died in her throat as every light in the station suddenly flickered and died, plunging them into total darkness. For 3 heartbeats, there was nothing but the sound of ragged breathing and the distant wail of emergency systems. Then, one by one, the Xelarian ships began to glow from within, not the harsh blue of weapons charging, but a softer golden light that seemed to pulse in perfect synchronization. The same golden hue that had flashed across Zixlarian's chromatophores when they spoke of love. In the darkness, Zixlarian's body began to emit the faintest trace of the same light. The emergency lights flickered on, bathing the neural chamber in a dim red glow that made Zixlarian's body look like it was covered in blood. Alex reached out with trembling fingers, hesitating just above the alien's cooling skin. The golden light pulsing within Zixlarian was faint but unmistakable, matching the rhythm now emanating from the fleet outside. "What's happening to them?" Alex whispered. Dr. Washington shook her head, her scientific certainty unraveling in the face of the unknown. "Their biological functions are barely registering, but there's something else. Energy patterns I can't identify." Captain Rivera's comm unit crackled to life. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from Earth Defense. They want to know if they should engage the alien fleet." "Hold position," Rivera ordered. "Something's happening here. We need time to understand it." Through the viewport, they could see the Earth vessels maintaining a defensive formation at the edge of the system, weapons hot but not firing. The Solarian ships remained in their perfect geometric arrangement, each pulsing with that strange golden light. "It's like they're communicating," Dr. Washington murmured, watching the synchronized pulses. Or resonating. Alex barely heard her. Their attention was fixed on Zixlarian, whose body was now definitely glowing brighter. The alien's chromatophores, previously dulled to ashen gray, now rippled with faint patterns that seemed to follow the same rhythm as the fleet. "Zix," Alex whispered, finally allowing their fingers to touch the alien's skin. "Can you hear me?" The contact sent a jolt through Alex's arm, not painful, but intense, like touching an exposed wire carrying just enough current to make your hair stand on end. Images flooded their mind. Earth seen from space, human faces laughing, crying, embracing, the strange beauty of Shakespeare's words as Zixlarian had first processed them. The ache of music that had no logical purpose, but moved something deep within. Alex jerked their hand back with a gasp. "They're still in there," they announced, voice cracking. "I felt them, but it's different. Bigger somehow." Dr. Washington's scientific curiosity overcame her caution. She reached for her scanner, but Rivera caught her wrist. "Are you sure that's wise?" he asked. "We don't know what we're dealing with." Before she could answer, the station's communication system crackled to life, broadcasting on all channels. The voice that emerged was both familiar and utterly alien, Zixlarian's distinctive melodic tones, but now layered with hundreds of others, speaking in perfect unison. "We are processing," the voices said. "Please, stand by." Alex leaned closer to Zixlarian's still form. "What's happening? Who is we?" The golden light within the alien's body pulsed brighter in response to Alex's voice, but their physical form remained motionless. Outside, the fleet's glow intensified in precise synchronization. Dr. Washington's face went pale as understanding dawned. "It's all of them," she whispered. The neural connection didn't just link Zixlarian to the commander. Somehow it spread to the entire fleet. "They're all connected now." "Is that possible?" Rivera demanded. "Theoretically, no," she admitted. "But apparently, yes." The station's systems suddenly powered back up, displays and lights returning to full brightness. The main view screen activated without command, showing the interior of the lead Solarian vessel. The fleet commander stood surrounded by their officers, all of them with the same golden light pulsing beneath their translucent skin. "Commander Morgan," the fleet commander addressed Alex directly. "We are experiencing difficulty." Alex stepped forward, heart pounding. This was first contact diplomacy without a playbook, negotiations with a collective consciousness that might hold Earth's fate in its hands. "What kind of difficulty?" "Your associate, Zixlarian, has shared feelings." The commander seemed to struggle with the concept. "Not data, not logic. We were unprepared for the neural impact." Dr. Washington stepped closer to Alex, whispering urgently. "They're in shock. Their entire civilization has evolved to suppress emotional responses, and Zixlarian just flooded their neural network with them." "Is that good or bad for us?" Rivera muttered. "Unknown," Dr. Washington replied. "Absolutely unknown." On the screen, the fleet commander's chromatophores rippled with complex patterns as they continued. "The emotional data transfer has affected our collective consciousness. We are experiencing division. Some units advocate proceeding with containment. Others argue for further study. Many are incapacitated by new neural patterns." Alex took a deep breath, sensing the razor's edge they walked. Earth's survival might depend on their next words. Your civilization values knowledge and understanding above all else, doesn't it? That's why you explore, why you study other species. The commander's head tilted in the now familiar gesture borrowed from humans. This is correct. Then consider this. What you're experiencing now, this division, this uncertainty, it's a form of knowledge too. A type of understanding your species has never had access to before. Dr. Washington picked up the thread seamlessly. Emotions aren't a contamination. They're information. Complex, nuanced information about value and meaning that pure logic can't access. The golden light throughout the chamber intensified. Zixlarian's body twitched, a subtle movement that only Alex noticed. Their hand moved instinctively to cover the aliens, and again that strange connection formed. But this time, Alex didn't pull away. Through the connection, Alex sensed the vast, roiling confusion of the collective mind. Thousands of Silarians simultaneously experiencing emotional responses for the first time, their orderly thought patterns disrupted by waves of feeling they had no context for. Fear, wonder, empathy, protectiveness, curiosity, and something else, something new emerging from the chaos. Your species calls it love. The voices said through the station's speakers, no longer just the commander, but thousands speaking as one. We have no word for this concept. The closest translation in our language would be a logical preservation instinct toward non-kin entities. Despite everything, Alex found themselves smiling. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. The golden light from Zixlarian's body suddenly intensified, becoming almost blinding. Their form began to shift, the outline of their body becoming less distinct, more fluid. Everyone in the chamber stepped back instinctively, everyone except Alex, who remained connected, hands still covering Zixlarians. What's happening to them? Alex demanded, looking frantically between the transforming alien and the view screen. The fleet commander's response was unnervingly calm. Neural transmutation. Silarian consciousness can exist as energy when necessary. Zixlarian has served as a conduit for the emotional transfer. The strain on their physical form was significant. Are they dying? The words tore from Alex's throat. Unknown, the commander replied. This is unprecedented. Their consciousness has partially merged with the collective, yet remains distinctly individual, a paradox. Outside the viewport, the Silarian fleet had begun to move, rearranging into a new formation, no longer a tactical array, but something that looked almost protective, surrounding the station and the Earth vessels in a spherical pattern. The golden light emanating from Zixlarian suddenly pulsed outward in a wave that passed harmlessly through everything in the chamber. As it did, the alien's physical form seemed to dissolve further, becoming almost translucent, the outline of their body now merely a suggestion rather than a solid boundary. Zix, hold on, Alex pleaded, tightening their grip on what had once been the alien's hand, but was now something more like living light. Don't go. Not yet. We still have so much to learn from each other. Through their connected consciousness, Alex felt something respond, not words, but a complex swirl of emotion that somehow conveyed both reassurance and profound transformation. And beneath it all, that same strange warmth that Zixlarian had first experienced during the music performance weeks ago. The fleet commander's voice resonated through the chamber once more. The collective is divided. For the first time in our history, consensus cannot be reached. We require time to process, to understand. And Earth. Captain Rivera pressed. What about your containment protocols? The commander's chromatophores flickered with new patterns. Suspended, temporarily. The emotional data suggests that hasty action would be inappropriate. Dr. Washington let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. They're standing down. But Alex barely heard her. Their entire awareness was focused on Zixlarian, whose form was now pulsing between solidity and pure energy, each transition more extended than the last. The alien was trying to communicate something through their connection, something urgent and profound that transcended language. As the golden light reached its peak intensity, Zixlarian's voice, their original voice, not the collective chorus, whispered directly into Alex's mind. "This is what your species calls a beginning. A beginning." The words echoed in Alex's mind as Zixlarian's physical form fluctuated more rapidly between solid matter and pure energy. The golden light had spread throughout the chamber now, dancing along the walls and ceiling like living electricity, connecting everyone present in a web of awareness that transcended normal human perception. "What's happening?" Rivera demanded, his military training failing him in the face of something so far beyond human experience. Dr. Washington. The scientist stood transfixed, her eyes wide with wonder and scientific curiosity. "It's like watching evolution happen in real time," she whispered. "Not over millions of years, but in minutes." Through their connection with Zixlarian, Alex felt the alien's consciousness expanding, fragments of it merging with the collective while a core essence fought to maintain individuality. The sensation was overwhelming, like trying to hold onto a hurricane with bare hands. "Stay with me," Alex pleaded, gripping tighter to what had once been Zixlarian's hand, but was now more like holding condensed starlight. "Don't lose yourself." A wave of emotion flooded back through their connection. Not words, but feelings. Gratitude, wonder, fear, and that strange new sensation that the Zixlarians had no word for, but humans have been writing poems about for millennia. On the view screen, the fleet commander suddenly stiffened, their chromatophores flashing erratic patterns. "Neural cascade intensifying," they announced, their layered voice now tinged with something that sounded almost like alarm. Emotional patterns spreading through all connected vessels, unable to contain. Dr. Washington's instruments began registering massive energy fluctuations throughout the station. "Whatever's happening is accelerating," she reported. "The energy readings are off the charts." "Is it dangerous?" Rivera asked, one hand instinctively moving to the sidearm he carried. She shook her head helplessly. "I don't know. This is beyond anything in human science." The station's artificial gravity suddenly flickered, causing everyone to momentarily float before being slammed back to the deck. Outside the viewport, the Zixlarian ship's formation began to shift again, moving faster now, their golden light intensifying until they looked like small suns orbiting the station. "We are experiencing difficulty maintaining consensus," the fleet commander announced, their voice now showing distinct signs of strain. "Some units advocate withdrawal. Others argue for continued observation. A minority faction proposes integration." "Integration," Dr. Washington repeated. "What does that mean?" But the commander didn't, or couldn't, elaborate. The golden light pulsing through their form had intensified until their features were barely distinguishable. Alex barely registered the conversation. Their entire being was focused on Zixlarian, whose consciousness was now communicating in fragmented bursts of sensation and memory. First contact, fear of the unknown, curiosity overriding caution, Shakespeare's words, music resonating through unfamiliar neural pathways, the first stirring of something beyond logic, and beneath it all, a question forming, not in words, but in pure concept. What happens when an immovable force meets an irresistible object? When cold logic encounters boundless emotion? Both change, Alex whispered in response. "That's the point. That's what life is. Constant change, adaptation, growth. Not just physical evolution, but hearts and minds evolving too." Through their connection, Alex felt something shift in Zixlarian's consciousness, a crystallization of purpose, a decision being made. The alien's form momentarily solidified, their multifaceted eyes focusing on Alex with startling clarity. "The collective fears change," Zixlarian said, their actual voice audible for the first time since the neural cascade began. "But I have learned that growth requires it. You taught me this." Before Alex could respond, Zixalarian's body dissolved completely into pure golden energy. But instead of dispersing, it coalesced into a tightly contained sphere hovering at eye level, pulsing with such intensity that everyone in the chamber had to shield their eyes. On the view screen, the fleet commander and their officers exhibited similar transformations, their physical bodies becoming increasingly translucent, golden light emanating from within. Throughout the chamber, the station's systems began to malfunction, displays flickering between normal readouts and strange symbols no human had ever seen before. Station-wide systems failure, Rivera reported, checking a terminal. We're losing power to life support. Evacuate all non-essential personnel, Alex ordered, never taking their eyes off the sphere of energy that had been Zixalarian. Now, as crew members rushed to comply, the sphere expanded suddenly, tendrils of golden light extending outward like solar flares. One tendril reached toward Alex, hovering just inches from their face. "Should I stop it?" Rivera asked, his hand again moving to his weapon. "No," Alex said firmly. "Let it happen." The tendril of light touched Alex's forehead, and their mind exploded with sensation. Not just Zixalarian's consciousness now, but fragments of thousands of Silarian minds, all experiencing emotion for the first time, all trying to process what it meant. The cacophony was deafening, overwhelming, like standing in the center of 1,000 storms all at once. Too much, Alex thought desperately. Human minds aren't built for this. Almost in response, the chaotic flood of consciousness narrowed, focused, becoming a more directed stream of information. Through it, Alex began to understand what was happening. The Silarian collective, for the first time in its million-year history, was fragmenting into individual perspectives. Unity giving way to diversity. Perfect consensus shattering into 1,000 viewpoints, each colored by newly awakened emotions. It was terrifying them. "They don't know how to handle disagreement," Alex gasped, the realization dawning through the connection. Their entire civilization is built on consensus. Without it, chaos, Dr. Washington finished, watching as the Xilarian ships outside began to move erratically, their perfect formation dissolving. On the view screen, the fleet commander's form had almost completely transformed into pure energy. "Control protocols failing," they announced, their voice now almost unrecognizable. "Emotional containment impossible. The collective is fragmented." Alex felt Zixalarian's consciousness reaching out through the chaos, trying to establish some kind of order. Not the rigid control of the old collective, but something new, a framework that could accommodate both logic and emotion, unity and individuality. But it wasn't working. The newly awakened emotional responses in the collective were too chaotic, too overwhelming. Some vessels in the fleet had begun to power up weapon systems again, not out of malice, but from fear, the most primal emotion, the first response to the unknown. "They're going to attack," Rivera warned, watching the tactical displays. "Earth defense is preparing to respond." "No," Alex shouted, both aloud and through their mental connection. "That's exactly what can't happen." Through their link with Zixalarian, Alex felt the aliens' desperate attempt to regain control, to establish enough order to prevent catastrophe. But the emotional awakening had been too sudden, too complete. The collective couldn't adapt quickly enough. In that moment of crisis, Alex made a decision. Instead of pulling away from the overwhelming flood of alien consciousness, they leaned into it, opening their mind fully to the connection. Human emotions, complex, contradictory, but familiar after millennia of evolution alongside logic, flowed outward through the link. Not just abstract concepts, but lived experiences. The bittersweet pain of saying goodbye to their grandfather. The complex pride of watching a student surpass them. The simple joy of watching sunrise from orbit. The comfort of shared silence with a friend. The everyday courage of facing fear and continuing anyway. And through it all, the fundamental truth that humans had learned through their own evolution. Emotions weren't the enemy of reason. They were its partner. its context, its purpose. The sphere of energy that had been Zixlarian pulsed violently, expanding to fill the entire chamber. For one terrifying moment, Alex felt their consciousness stretching beyond the boundaries of their body, merging with something vast and alien and beautiful. Then darkness. When Alex opened their eyes again, the chamber was in ruins. Emergency lighting cast harsh shadows across fallen debris. Dr. Washington was helping Rivera to his feet, both of them looking dazed but unarmed. And standing in the center of the destruction was a figure, not quite Zixlarian as they had been, but not the pure energy they had become either. Something in between, something new. What happened? Alex managed, their voice rough. The being turned, familiar multifaceted eyes meeting Alex's, but now glowing with that strange golden light from within. Evolution, they said simply. Outside the viewport, the Xilarian fleet had reassembled into a new formation, not the rigid geometric pattern of before, but something more organic, more fluid. The golden light still pulsed through every vessel, but now in complex, overlapping rhythms rather than perfect synchronization. The collective, Alex asked. Changed, the being replied. As am I. As are you. Before Alex could ask what that meant, alarms blared throughout the station. Dr. Washington rushed to a terminal, her expression shifting from confusion to horror. Something's happening to Earth, she said. On every screen, a countdown appeared. 10 minutes. 9 minutes 59 seconds. 9 minutes 58. The countdown ticked relentlessly on every screen. 9 minutes. 8 minutes 59 seconds. What is this? Alex demanded, turning to the transformed being that had once been Zixlarian. What's happening to Earth? The being's form shimmered slightly, golden light pulsing beneath a semi-transparent skin that looked both familiar and utterly alien. Not destruction, they said, their voice carrying new harmonics that seemed to resonate directly with Alex's bones. Transformation. Dr. Washington frantically worked at a terminal. It's not a weapon signature, she reported. I don't even know how to describe it. Some kind of energy field is forming around Earth's atmosphere. On the main screen, they could see it now, a gossamer web of golden light spreading across the planet, similar to the energy that now infused Zixlarian and the Xilarian fleet. Delicate strands crisscrossed continents and oceans, pulsing with the same complex rhythms they'd observed in the alien ships. What are you doing to our world? Rivera asked, his voice hard with suspicion. Offering a choice, the being replied. A gift and a responsibility. Alex stepped forward, somehow knowing they alone could bridge this gap of understanding. Explain, please. The being's multifaceted eyes focused on Alex with that same intensity that had characterized Zixlarian from their first meeting. The collective has reached consensus, a new kind of consensus, not uniformity of thought, but unity of purpose despite diversity of perspective. Their form rippled with complex patterns that seemed to convey concepts beyond words. What you call love has changed us. Now we offer the same opportunity to your species. Understanding dawned on Alex like the slow rise of a distant sun. The energy field. It's some kind of communication network. Deeper, the being corrected. A bridge between minds. Between hearts. Not forced, but offered. Each human will choose whether to connect, how deeply to share, when to withdraw. Dr. Washington looked up from her readings, eyes wide. A planetary consciousness. You're trying to make us like you. No, the being's response was immediate and certain. We do not seek to remake you in our image. The error of the old collective was in valuing uniformity above diversity. What emerges will be uniquely human. Your passion, your creativity, your contradictions, all preserved. But isolation, misunderstanding, the barriers between minds, these could fade. Alex thought of all the human conflicts throughout history born from failure to understand one another, from the inability to truly feel another's pain or joy. And if we refuse, then the gift withdraws. We will not impose. The transformed Zixlarian gestured toward the viewport, where Earth gleamed, partially wrapped in that delicate golden web. But consider what your poets and philosophers have sought for millennia: true understanding between minds, true empathy, true connection. The countdown continued. 6 minutes. 5 minutes, 59 seconds. Rivera's hand hadn't left his weapon. This could be the greatest trick in history, a way to control humanity by making us believe we're choosing it. Alex looked deeply into the being's eyes, searching for any trace of deception. Through the remnants of their connection, they felt nothing but sincerity, and something else, something profoundly personal directed solely at them. "You're still in there, aren't you, Zix?" Alex whispered. "The individual I knew, not just part of the collective." The being's form shifted slightly, becoming momentarily more solid, more recognizably Zixlarian. "I am changed, as is the collective, neither entirely separate nor entirely merged. A paradox, like your love, both deeply personal and universally shared." Dr. Washington interrupted, her voice urgent. "Reports are coming in from Earth. People are experiencing something. Not intrusion, not control, but awareness. Like suddenly sensing the emotions of those around them. It's starting with those who are most open to it. Artists, empaths, children." On the screens, news footage showed people around the world looking up at the sky in wonder, not panic. In some places, strangers were reaching out to one another, tears streaming down faces. In others, long-estranged family members embraced as if barriers had suddenly fallen. It's not forcing connection, Alex realized. It's just making it possible. The countdown reached 3 minutes. "We must have your answer," the transformed Zixlarian said. "Not just yours, Commander Morgan, but humanity's. The network responds to collective will. If enough reject it, it will withdraw." Rivera stepped forward. "This isn't a decision we can make for an entire species. This requires governments, votes, years off." "No," Alex interrupted. "It requires what it's always required. Individual hearts making individual choices, then finding their way together." They turned to the being. "That's what you learned from us, isn't it? The strength of individual choice within collective harmony." Yes, the single word carried volumes of meaning. Earth continued to turn below them, the golden web neither expanding nor contracting now, as if waiting. The countdown reached 1 minute. Dr. Washington looked up from her terminal. "The connection isn't forcing anything. It's just revealing. People are feeling each other's joy, pain, hope, fear, and they're choosing. Some are pulling back. Some are diving in deeper. As it should be," the being said. "Freedom within connection. Individuality within community. The paradox that makes both possible." The countdown reached 0. For one breathless moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the golden web surrounding Earth pulsed once, brightly, before settling into a steady glow, not covering the entire planet, but present, available to those who reached for it. The transformed Zixlarian turned to Alex, their form shifting again, becoming more solid, more defined, though still suffused with that inner light. "Your species has chosen. Not unanimity, but enough acceptance to maintain the bridge." "And now?" Alex asked. "Now the real work begins, for both our kinds." The being extended what had once been a hand, now a limb of semi-solid light. "The collective withdraws its containment protocols permanently. Earth is recognized not as a threat, but as a partner in evolution." Captain Rivera finally relaxed his stance. The wariness remained in his eyes. "And you? What happens to you now?" The being's gaze never left Alex. "I remain between worlds, changed by love, as you have been changed by contact with the unknown. A bridge, like the network itself." Alex reached out, their fingers meeting the transformed aliens. The connection between them flared briefly, a shared understanding beyond words. Gratitude, wonder, and that emotion that had started it all. Dr. Washington cleared her throat, scientists' curiosity overcoming the moment. Does it have a name? This network, this connection. The being considered for a moment, chromatophores rippling with thought. In our language, the closest term would be the resonance, but perhaps a human word would be more fitting. Alex smiled, feeling the echo of countless minds awakening to new awareness, the delicate balance of separateness and togetherness that define the human experience at its best. We already have a word for it, they said simply. We call it love. Outside the station, the Xilarian fleet began to withdraw, not in retreat, but in a gesture of trust. One ship remained, smaller than the others, clearly designed for a single occupant. The transformed Xilarian looked at it, then back at Alex. I cannot return to what I was, nor can your world, but we can discover what we might become, together. As Earth continued its eternal dance around the sun, now wrapped in a gentle lattice of golden light, two beings, one human, one something new, stood at the threshold of a universe suddenly bigger, stranger, and more wonderful than either had imagined. And behind them, throughout the stars, countless minds watched, waited, and wondered what might grow from this most unexpected seed. An alien learning to love, and a human learning that love might be the most alien force of all.